Good afternoon. Thank you for being here when there's so much stuff going on. For myself, to help me remember to relax and to speak slowly, I'm going to take a deep breath, and I invite you to take a deep breath with me. Thank you. So, my name is Sky Blue. Yes, that is my real name. My mother named me that name. Yes, my parents were hippies. I'll come back to that in a little bit. So, the belly of the beast. So I'm from the US. When I'm in international circles, I certainly have a lot of feelings about being from the US, which I consider to be the current seat of the dominant global empire in the world. I'm very aware of the privilege that I have, especially as a white man from the United States. The ease of traversing borders, the financial ease that I have, the ease that I have as a native English speaker. And being here the last few days, one of the things I've been very struck by hearing people talk from other eco-villages around the world is how these issues of sustainability, of democracy, of self-determination, which in the US for most people are really quality of life issues, for people in other countries are issues of survival. So I'm holding that very strongly. And I'm here at the summit to learn, to share, and I'm hoping to be able to bring back to the US this profound feeling of family and solidarity that I'm getting from this event. I'm here representing several groups that I'll talk about, but I want to start a little bit with some terminology, which I think so often serves to separate us, and I think if we can get into what do we actually mean by these terms, it can point us in the direction of how to connect more deeply with each other. So what is community? So a definition of community that I want to offer is that a community is a network of social and economic relationships and the places where those relationships interact. So in the US, the term eco-village kind of came along a while after the term intentional community was already widely in use. So to a large degree, especially at this point in time, intentional community and eco-village are interchangeable to a large degree, but again, there's a wide variety of different labels and identities that groups take on. But for our purposes, the Fellowship for Intentional Community on IC.org defines intentional community as an inclusive term for a whole bunch of different kinds of things. Communities and projects where people strive together with a common vision. So I want to elaborate on that a little bit. In my mind, shared purpose, shared living, and membership are three key aspects of what define an intentional community. Shared purpose, shared values, shared beliefs, shared vision, shared principles, a shared sense of what it is that we're doing together. And that sense is articulated, if not in writing, at least verbally, and it's part of the discourse of the community. Shared living, I like to think of this in terms of economics and not in terms of economics as in finances, but in terms of economics, that word eco, being from the Greek word for home, which is the same as ecology. So the life of the home and that expanded sense of community is an important part of what sharing that is an important part of what being an intentional community is about. And then membership process, membership definition. There's a clear understanding of who is a part of this. Who is part of this shared purpose that we are sharing, that we are moving forward together with. There's some definition of what it means to be a member, and there's some process by which somebody becomes a member, whether or not you even call it membership, whether you call yourselves members, but there's some definition there of who is moving together with this shared purpose and with their shared lives. So I want to give a little introduction to Twin Oaks community, which has been my home for most of my adult life. Twin Oaks was founded in 1967, so at 48 years old, it makes it one of the oldest communities in the United States, and I believe one of the oldest in the world as well. There's a couple important things about Twin Oaks. One is that Twin Oaks, unlike many communities that were started in the 60s out of the counterculture movement, it was not actually started out of the counterculture movement. It was not started by hippies. It was started by lay people, academics, who were interested primarily in behaviorist psychology, and particularly the book Walden 2, a utopian fiction novel that was written by behaviorist psychologist B.F. Skinner. And so a group of about 8 or 9 people, took that book as a blueprint or as a homework assignment and said, let's see if we can make this a reality. So that's what birthed Twin Oaks. Now, behaviorism as a guiding force dropped away very quickly, but you still see remnants of it here and there. I think it's also interesting to note that Twin Oaks was also not founded as an eco-village. They're in the sense of a focus on sustainability. Now, that is there in the bylaws from very early on, but as was spoken about by Ross earlier today, it was very much the social aspects that were key in people's minds about Twin Oaks. It's been as time has gone on that the community has become more interested and has become more of an emphasis on sustainability. The other key aspect of Twin Oaks is that a core value of it is egalitarianism. One of the main ways that egalitarianism manifests is through income sharing. Collective ownership, not only of all the resources, all the land, but sharing the income that the community produces through its businesses, and then deciding democratically how that money is used. So I want to give a little bit of a rundown of some of the basics of Twin Oaks. Twin Oaks is about 100 people, currently 91 adults and 15 children, 450 acres of land, 7 different residential buildings, a dining hall down here at the bottom with a commercial-sized kitchen. Jumping back a little second, so this farmhouse was the only thing that the community started with. So everything else and all of the other pictures that you see have all been built by the community in the last 48 years. So as I said, Twin Oaks runs several businesses that sustain itself. Hammocks and tofu are the primary businesses. Agriculture is very key also to the community. The community produces about 60% of its own food through gardens, orchards, cows, dairy program. If you throw in homemade bread, granola, kombucha, that sort of thing, the number increases. Whoa. We share facilities for clothing and laundry, workshops for bikes, cars, wood, machines, natural and conventional health supplies, offices with network computers, 16 vehicles, countless bikes. I want to point out the vehicle system. This is part of it. We do an elaborate car sharing system and shared shopping system that allows us to have less than a third of the number of vehicles than the average Americans, and that includes several work vehicles that are generally not included in the American average. We share a pond, a sauna, music room, art studio, playgrounds, canoes, exercise room, dance studio, yoga room. Also, all members have full access to health care, to dental care. All resources for pregnancy and birth, as well as for death, are provided. Childcare and education needs. We provide our own construction and maintenance, firewood for heating all the buildings, vehicle maintenance, preserving vegetables and fruit, herbs. So we share a lot at Twin Oaks. I am from Twin Oaks, yeah. But most importantly, we share each other. So a little bit of the backstory. So as I said, my parents are hippies. Thank you. My parents met at Twin Oaks in the late 70s. I wasn't born there, but it is certainly an important part of where I come from. I also have a 13-year-old son who was born in the community, and he is one of only 2 third-generation Twin Oakers that I know of. So moving on, I'm about halfway through my time here. So Twin Oaks is part of a local cluster of communities, and I think this is an important thing to note. Twin Oaks founded Acorn Community, which is now 22 years old, about 11 miles away. More recently, the two communities together have supported the formation of a community called Living Energy Farm and another called Sapling. There are labor exchange agreements between all of these communities. There's a lot of social interaction between these communities. And what we're seeing is that as each community forms, it makes it easier for the next community to form. And this increase in the social and the economic interaction that happens is attracting more and more people, including encouraging more and more ex-members from these communities to relocate locally. So it is very much becoming a community of communities in the area. Larger than that, Twin Oaks is part of the Federation of Egalitarian Communities, which is a network that was formed in 1976 and was actually inspired by the network of kibbutzim in Israel. Key principles of FEC communities are that they hold their land, labor, income, and other resources in common, assume the responsibility for the needs of their members, practice nonviolence, participatory democracy, equality, environmentalism, and support people's development. There are shared outreach programs between the communities, labor exchange between the communities, and PEACH, which is a catastrophic healthcare fund with close to $1 million in assets that the communities have jointly created. So I'm also here representing the Fellowship for Intentional Community, which I have been honored to have heard acknowledged several times over the last few days. And this last May, I was hired as the incoming executive director for the Fellowship for Intentional Community, which is a big deal for me. So the FIC was formed in 1987, which incidentally is 7 years after I was born. For about 3 decades, the FIC has been the primary source of resources, networking, and support for communities, community seekers, and researchers and academics looking to learn about intentional communities or talk about them. We've been doing a lot of work to redefine ourselves, and our current draft mission statement is to support and promote the development of intentional communities and the evolution of cooperative culture. Cooperative culture is something that we've been moving more and more into, recognizing that community comes in many different kinds of forms, and that the intentional communities of the 60s is one kind of form. And as things evolve, we need to keep up with that. The FIC publishes the Communities Directory, which it started doing in 1990, Communities Magazine, which was actually started in 1972 before the FIC was even formed, but then the FIC took on as publisher. We also run a bookstore with an incredible number of titles on all aspects of community living and cooperative culture. We provide ad space on our website and Communities Magazine. We have a list of community consultants. We sponsor events and organizations. We provide the most robust resource base in the US for communities, and all of this provides about 77% of the organization's income. We operate with no grant funding, no foundation funding whatsoever. This is not something that we're necessarily opposed to, but it hasn't been readily available to us, and we have had to make our way as a self-sustaining organization for almost 30 years. So there's an increased amount of media attention that's coming to communities. Twin Oaks alone in the last year has been visited by Al Jazeera America, CNN Online, and Yahoo Parenting. The Yahoo Parenting article received about 3 million views within a few days of being posted. So there's a big question here of how do we respond to this increased attention, which is clearly coming from an increased desire for positive solutions to the increased problems that people are increasingly beginning to recognize. We think we have something to offer, and we have things to move past, like the hippie stereotypes. We also have a big hurdle to jump in the US around the idea that sustainability means deprivation. You know, Americans are very used to having whatever they want, and we have to move past that. And we think that sharing as a pathway towards sustainability is a key aspect of that, and it's something that we know something about. one of the things that we're looking at strategically at this point is increased partnerships with other organizations who are in this sort of larger cooperative movement. So transition towns, worker cooperatives, and other groups working in the sort of solidarity, new economy, sharing economy field. Also, the FIC has been in negotiations with the Eco-Village Network of Canada, the Eco-Village Network of the Americas, and NextGen about the reforming of GEN North America. This has been something we've been discussing a lot over the last few days with various representatives of us, and including a really nice conversation yesterday with CASA, where we kind of healed some of the lingering stuff that was still there around CASA separating from ENA, and looking back at how if GEN North America can reform itself, well, perhaps CASA Mexico can also become a part of maybe both networks or serve more as a bridge between these two regions of GEN. And the FIC has been helping to play a role in reconciling some of the tensions that have been existing between the Eco-Village Network of Canada and the Eco-Village Network of the Americas as well. And we're all very excited at this point about the movement that's been happening. So, lastly, Twin Oaks hosts a communities conference every year on Labor Day weekend, which this year is September 4th through 7th. It's an event that I have been managing for quite a long time or been involved with in different ways. It's been the main event for communities in the US for 21 years now. So I leave you with this. I'm so happy to be here, and if you want to come join me for more in the US, come to the Communities Conference in September, and thank you very much.